Lane Kiffin did an interview that turned into an outstanding profile in Vanity Fair, where he said some things about Oxford, Mississippi, Ole Miss, and LSU and Baton Rouge that we got to discuss, because there's part of this that has everything to do with history, Confederate flag, Ole Miss, LSU, Louisiana government, Mississippi government, and Lane Kiffin himself. And I'm going to try to differentiate those things so that you can better understand what the hell it is that we're dealing here with. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, answer the question in the comments below. What do you think about the quote I'm about to give you that Lane Kiffin gave to Vanity Fair about recruiting players to Oxford, Mississippi, and recruiting players to Baton Rouge? Head coach at Ole Miss, now head coach at LSU. And I want to start by saying, hey, I've written 2 books about black folks in America, right? You might honestly call it another job. I went to school at the University of Tulsa. I got a master's degree at Oklahoma, and I was in the PhD program for English before I took a job that led me right here to doing what I've always wanted to do, talk about college football for a living. I'm writing a book, a 3rd one, about black folks in America called Prime, on the pressure and pressures of black folks. And I'm really into this idea of excellence in black America and how it functions in the 21st century, particularly in 2026. I write about Lewis Hamilton. I write about Deion Sanders. I write about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith, Michael B. Jordan, et al. And under this guise of what does it mean to be black in the United States. And the reason we're talking about this is because Lane brought it up, okay? I'm also putting out these credentials there to make you understand who's talking to you right now. I've covered college football for half my life, and I've been writing about black history for my entire adult life. My grandmother has a research grant in her name at the University of Southern Mississippi because, well, she sued the state of Mississippi for voting rights, and she won. Okay. I was raised from 3 years old to 9 years old in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. You can find my 3rd grade report on my grandmother in the archives at the Southern Miss Library. My grandmother stood 10 toes down during Freedom Summer. My mother integrated an elementary school called named after Confederate President Jefferson Davis. What I'm saying is, I know from this stuff. Okay. What I'm also saying is, Lane Kiffin talking about this is something else entirely. All right. So let's start with what he said. What he said to Vanity Fair that's quoted and been widely disseminated across social medias is he was trying to distance himself from Ole Miss. And he would explain it to Vanity Fair by doing this, talking about recruits. They would say, hey, coach, we really like you, but my grandparents aren't letting me move to Oxford, Mississippi. That doesn't come up when you say Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Parents were sitting here this weekend saying the campus's diversity feels so great. I feel like there's no segregation, end quote. Okay. Now I'm going to play you a brief clip from Lane Kiffin at SEC Media Days last year.
The people of Oxford, and then when you lose your parents and you see how they are and how they help take care of them towards the end, or how much they really cared about them, it opened my eyes to a totally different way. It's basically, I went to Oxford, had this view. Then I got kids there, so then I had a different view as a parent there. And how awesome the community is to raise your kids in and to have them go to college and high school around these families and really take care of everybody. Then you see your parents at the end and lose your parents, one kind of expected, one unexpected, and to see how the community is around that, I owe so much to Oxford.
So that's Lane Kiffin talking about Oxford, Mississippi less than a year ago. Okay. Changes jobs, changes what he says about the city of Oxford. Now, I'm not going to talk about black history, segregation, and the like here, because I don't think that Lane Kiffin has earned that. I don't. When you see what he had to say then and what he has to say now, you're allowed to take this in one ear and out the other, guys. This is a man who Al Davis wrote an open letter to the University of Tennessee about saying, hey, this man will embarrass you after leaving the job as the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, be the head coach at Tennessee. Tennessee folks can't stand Lane Kiffin because of how he treated them and how he exited the building. Lane Kiffin is also the guy that Nick Saban couldn't even trust in the college football playoff because against Washington, he started calling plays. They ain't even running practice. And you know how long you get for bowl preparation to run plays in practice. And he fired him, elevated Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian becomes this OC and, the OC, what I think is the best college football team of all time, 2020 Alabama. And Steve Sarkisian, who's become the head coach of Texas. Lane Kiffin also made a mess leaving Ole Miss to go to LSU for 2 weeks. He's in limbo about this. He knows that Ole Miss is going into the college football playoff. We all know it without even making the SEC championship game. And what he ended up doing was getting LSU to make him the highest paid head coach in history without a conference championship in a Power 4 setting or a national championship. He makes $13 million, guys. He makes more than Ryan Day at Ohio State, Kyle Whittingham at Michigan, Dan Lanning at Oregon. Matter of fact, put it another way, the only people that he does not make more money than right now are Kirby Smart and Kurt Cignetti, national champs. One guy won it back-to-back years at Georgia. The other guy is the first head coach to lead a team to a 16-0 season since Yale in 1894. Again, we can talk about the Confederate flag and what it might or mean in Mississippi today. We could talk about Colonel Reb, what that might mean in Mississippi today. We could talk about how black folks might look at Ole Miss today versus past. We can even talk about how Lane Kiffin has been the head coach at Ole Miss when it has never been more successful. What we cannot do is let Lane Kiffin tell us about segregation at Baton Rouge or diversity at Ole Miss. That we can't do, guys. You're going to have to remember this is a football coach. And not just any football coach. The kind of football coach that other people do not enjoy his exit. The only place where he did not make a mess upon leaving was Florida Atlantic. Okay? You're also talking about a man who will tell you what you want to hear to get what he wants done. I believe that there's a level of integrity that needs to be going along with a lot of these things that are said, especially when you talk about these big subjects that got to do with what some people call social issues and what I just call reality, and what other people generally don't want to talk about, right? They say leave the politics out of it. Well, in this case, I ain't bring it to you. Lane Kiffin did. And there really wasn't a reason for him to do this. Now, you can go watch segments about me talking about Ole Miss, me talking about LSU, me talking about Black history right here on this channel. But as I look at this, and I look at most of the players at LSU, most of the players at Ole Miss, I also think about their parents. I think about their grandparents. And I think about if they said that to their children, it is incumbent upon you, Lane Kiffin, to demonstrate this is a safe place for them. It is incumbent upon you to show them that their past is not their present. It is incumbent upon you to demonstrate to the rest of the known world as the best public spokesman at the time for Oxford, Mississippi, that this is a place you should want to go to school. Even if nobody wants to believe it, that's your job. And when you leave that place, you talk about it as a place that other people should want to go. Unless, of course, you were done dirty. And Ole Miss did not do Lane Kiffin dirty, guys. For example, a man that left a place better than he found it and still says good things about it is also in the SEC. He coaches Florida. His name's John Sumrall. He coached in New Orleans, Louisiana, at a private school called Tulane. Gave it his own money so that they would be better off with name, image, and likeness. Coached them into the college football playoff. Recruited the hell out of their 2026 class. And then left the place and still says great things about the place and is excited for Willie Hall and the Green Wave in 2026. You can do that. That Lane Kiffin chose not to says not anything about us in America and or race relations. It says everything about Lane Kiffin. When that man speaks, remember, you have a right not to believe him.